Hi, I'm Elaine Sanchez, founder of Caregiver Help, and with me is Brenna Baucum, a certified financial planning professional, and she is the founder of Collective Wealth Planning. When we have been having a series of really interesting, informative, and sometimes difficult conversations about managing life after caregiving and living solo. So, welcome back, Brenna.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so we've talked about a lot of things, and today this one is really, really important. This topic is important, but it isn't to me as emotionally fraught as some
Mm,
of the topics that we've talked about earlier. But we have talked about the importance of building a team. And this was, for me, a new concept when we started working with you,
mm,
because I don't think every financial planner thinks in these terms. And I know that every estate planning attorney doesn't think in these terms always. A lot of them just kind of manage their own pots and their own areas of expertise. So I didn't realize you were building a team force until we already had it. So, so let me ask you, let's take a look at two different scenarios, and let's start with saying, okay, let's look at someone who is maybe in their 40s or their 50s, and it's clear to them that they're going to need to be helping their parents, and then they go, oh my gosh, I need to be doing this for myself too, because we have children. If I die, what happens to my kids, what happens to my spouse, so let's say you're just at a starting point, regardless of your age, you're at a starting point. Who do you need in your life to help you organize and manage your finances and prepare you for a future?
Yeah, great question. And as we've had this conversation through these past several videos, my idea of a solid team has
Mm-hmm.
expanded a bit,
Yes,
particularly for the people that are
yes,
watching this.
yes,
So
yes.
originally and typically what I see most often, and
Mm-hmm.
my measurement of success is when I see clients happy who aren't too worried about administrative stuff. That's my
Great.
measurement of is this client being served well?
Yeah.
And so that typically involves having a attorney
Mm-hmm.
on your team, good estate planning attorney
Mm-hmm.
who can
Mm-hmm.
help you ensure your documents are up to date, a good CPA
Mm-hmm.
who's kind of looking at the back end of what
Mm-hmm.
just happened
Mm-hmm.
and from a tax perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and then a CFP or some type of financial planner
Mm-hmm.
who's helping to help you with today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I look at it is the estate planning attorney is helping us with what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
The CPA helps us with what happened. And the
Mm-hmm.
and the planner helps to say, okay, that's what happened. Here's how we can improve that. This
Mm-hmm.
is what's to come. Okay, here's what we need to do today to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that that
Mm-hmm.
actually happens
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the way that you want it to. And
I
then
like that.
all of the other pieces that come about day to day, our concerns, are the things we're excited about, all of that gets to be part. It's the honor of my
Mm-hmm.
role in this for clients is I get to be a part of those day-to-day discussions. So
Mm-hmm.
you see your CPA once a year, usually
Mm-hmm.
see your
Yep.
estate planning attorney maybe every five, seven
Yep.
years.
Yep.
But I get to see my clients much more frequently.
Yes, you
And
do.
so so that is the piece that
Mm-hmm.
really allows me to serve as that quarterback for them and being able to implement those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three. If you don't have any professional team right now, those are the three that typically I see people really value having. And oftentimes, especially if working with someone locally is important to you, we I have a real good sense of the attorneys and the CPAs in town who are proactive, who reach
Yes.
out to their clients, who answer emails
Yes.
and get back to you. So once you find and establish one of those team members that you trust, that can be a good first place to go to
Yes.
find what the next person might be or the next person.
Okay. That's really good. So if who do you start with? I mean, do
Yeah.
you start with finding the financial planner with the attorney, with a CPA, most people already have somebody doing their books, right? I mean, if
A lot
they,
of a lot
a
a lot
lot
of
of
people,
people
that's the
do.
first thing most people feel comfortable outsourcing is
Yeah, yeah,
taxes.
yeah, because that's kind of cut and dried. Well, not really.
Depends.
There's a lot, yeah, it depends. Okay, so let's talk about what are the questions? What are the
Mhm.
qualifications you should look for in a financial planner?
Sure.
And let's talk about the difference between somebody who is working for, and I'm not going to name any names,
Hmm.
but they're working for, what do you call it, a company that,
Wirehouse or a broker. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. What's the difference between those people and a certified financial planner?
Yeah, great question. I want to answer one of your other questions first, really quickly, which
Okay.
was if you don't have any of those three
Yes.
professionals, where do you start?
Uh-huh.
If you don't have any estate planning documents on file, the attorney is the place to start
Okay. Okay.
because if we never know, something could happen tomorrow, right?
That's true.
And if you only have finite dollars to go when you were
Right.
mentioning like the 40 and 50-year-olds, we
Right.
have finite dollars with many, many needs for them,
Yes.
start with the estate plan,
Okay, good. That makes sense.
then move from there. So
Okay.
in terms of this crazy industry, the financial planning and finance industry
Mhm.
has a quirk to it that is maddening to me, which is that anyone can call themselves a financial planner, a financial advisor,
Mhm.
and those terms don't really mean anything.
Okay.
So, unless you find someone with some letters behind their name,
Okay.
that's the first kind of vetting that I encourage people to look through is what kind of education did this person need to go through in order to call themselves whatever they're calling themselves?
And what are the letters behind the names that they
C
should look for?
CFP is kind
CFP.
of the
Got it.
that's the
Okay.
I would say is the litmus test for kind of having a really broad but shallow in some cases awareness of all the areas of someone's financial life.
Okay. And there's schooling that is involved in this and extensive
Yeah.
testing,
Yeah,
correct?
so this is a funny story. When I started in this career,
Hmm.
it took me 3 months to be able to call myself an investment manager, which sounds
Okay.
really impressive.
It
But
does.
I 3 months earlier was in video production, a completely different field.
Yes, 3 months. Wow, you're a fast learner, right? Or
Well, and
it was
like
pretty easy to become an investment advisor.
exactly, it tells you that the bar was lower.
Yeah,
And so it took me 3 months to do that. It took me 3 years to call myself a CFP.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
you have to go through thousands of hours of curriculum, and then you have to have 6,000 hours of client-facing experience.
Wow.
And you have to pass a really low pass rate exam.
Wow.
So
And you did
those,
that in 3 years?
yes. So
Wow,
so
that
that
was
is the
impressive. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is that's why I think the CFP is a really good place to start
Mhm,
because
mhm,
this is not a fly-by-night commitment
mhm,
that someone
mhm,
made.
mhm, mhm,
So that from a credential perspective, starting with
mhm,
the CFP is great. If you have other specific needs for your
mhm,
situation, maybe you want to work with somebody who has deep knowledge in tax. There are other letters after their name, CPA,
mhm, mhm,
EA, that kind
mhm,
of thing.
mhm, mhm,
So that those credentialing pieces to me
mhm,
feels like step one
mhm,
for vetting and understanding
mhm,
how do I find this person.
mhm.
Then step two is understanding how do they get paid? How do I pay them for their services? And does that align with what I need, my budget, my
Mhm,
general complexity of my financial
mhm,
situation?
mhm.
So you mentioned earlier there are some wirehouses and you'll see there's seven of them in town of the same
Yes, yes,
organization or business,
yes.
right?
And they're all
Uh,
selling exactly the same products.
yes, exactly. And it's maybe XYZ mutual fund or ABC annuity or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not to say that that's not a fit for some people.
Mm-hmm.
That you walk into any one of those places, they will say, yeah, happy to help you with your money, no problem. And it
Mm-hmm.
will be very hard to tell how you pay them. So that's one of the most common things I hear from when I go and speak on financial planning is
Yeah.
how am I paying my advisor?
Mm-hmm.
And that to me hurts my heart a bit. And but
Mhm.
it's not unusual because it's not clear. It is
Right.
purposefully, people have a vested interest in this being opaque. And so I think the more we can do some due diligence on our end and say, okay, wait, how do advisors get paid?
Mhm.
So there are typically three ways.
Okay.
One is through commissions, which I think most people understand. If you've ever bought a car, you
Mhm.
get it.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
might, again, might be a mutual fund, might be an insurance product.
Mhm.
One is through and that's called commissions. That's what
Mhm.
that sale
Mhm.
framework is called. One is called fee only. And that
Mhm.
is where the only fee that your advisor receives is from what you pay them.
Okay.
So again, we talked about this in one of our other videos. In terms of those two with a conflict of
Mhm.
interest, the
Mhm.
fee only less likely to have a conflict because there's no financial tether for the advisor to give
Mhm.
you certain advice.
And
And
the
then
fee is based on the amount of dollars they are managing for you, correct?
sometimes,
Yes. Oh,
sometimes,
sometimes.
yeah.
Okay. Let's
So
talk
there's some
about the
different,
other times.
yeah. So, well, the third of those three. So there's commissions, there's fee only, and then there's something called fee based, which is a combination of the two.
Okay.
So in terms of how advisors typically, I guess if we say CFP is your credentials you want
Mhm.
to be
Mhm.
going after,
Mhm.
then of those three models, the fee only might
Mhm.
be the framework for which
Mhm.
conflicts of interest are lessened.
Uh-huh.
And then the third piece that I think about is, yeah, how in terms of fees, how much does it cost? So sometimes,
Right.
like you just said, it's a percentage of the money that your advisor manages for you. That's really
Mhm.
common. It's known as the assets under management or
Mhm.
AUM
Mhm.
model.
Mhm.
So 1% is kind of an industry standard
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
what you might pay of your portfolio for
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
service. There's also people that pay on a subscription basis, somewhere between,
Yes, you told me that, and it's like I'd
yeah,
never heard of that before. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's unusual.
So it might be between 250 and 250 a month to 750 a month that you pay this advisor. And that person can give you guidance. I see this be a really good fit for people who have all their money, that are working and have all their money in their 401k,
Mhm.
where it should be in their
Mhm.
401k. They don't need an advisor to do the money management part, but they need the advice, the ongoing advice and planning work. So that's where I see sometimes this
Mhm.
subscription model come in. There's hourly models. I really love Hello Nectarine is the name of a website, hellonectarine.com, for finding a fee only CFP who offers hourly services.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. So you can go right on there. You can find what their expertise is in, how to book with them, what their schedules are. You can pay
Mhm.
for it and book it right there. I just
Mhm. Mhm.
anytime I meet somebody looking for hourly, I say, check this place out. It's really great.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a new one for me too. Glad to
Hmm.
know that.
Yeah.
Um, wow.
So
Now let's talk about the then do we, is there anything else I should ask you about hiring a financial planner?
well, the I think, we talked about credentials, what we want them
Yes,
to be able to do. We talked
right.
about fees.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think one of the biggest things is fit,
Mm-hmm.
personality fit.
Mm-hmm.
Is and many financial advisors will offer a free introductory meeting.
Okay.
And in that meeting, the things that I recommend people do is first and foremost, try to recognize how much of the meeting you're talking versus how much they're talking,
Okay.
because that will give you a very good idea of what kind of partner they are, if partner is the appropriate word. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a directive relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's what you want. But in most cases, when I'm working with people, especially people going through big transition and who are managing a household and finances on their own, is they
Mm-hmm.
want a thought partner. They want a
Mm-hmm.
collaborator,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's going to help keep them on track on, yes, I have this
Mm-hmm.
idea. Hey, I got this thing in the mail that I'm wondering about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All of these things, um, making sure that you understand how they were going to react in these various situations. If I call you and tell you I want a distribution from one of my accounts, how long does that take and how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Or if I have a question about something that you are not an expert in, how are you going to handle that?
You wouldn't happen to have a list of questions that people, would you?
I do have a list. So
I would love to share that.
yeah, I'm
I
happy to
would
share.
love to share that. I have a list of questions you should ask when you go to check out a long-term care facility.
Yeah.
And you don't know these things
Mhm.
until you've had that experience. And so I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, very happy
And we
to
will
share that.
share that in the description for this. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, I actually, in fact, I have a whole blog that kind of and a video that goes through
Mhm.
this exact thing of how do we find an advisor? Because I
Mm,
think it's important to our industry has a bit of a bad rap that
mhm,
when someone says I'm a financial advisor, people th hear like, oh, I sell product and I'm going to try to sell it to you, or I'm going to try,
mhm, mhm,
And a good advisor
mhm,
doesn't want to serve every single person that they meet. A good advisor wants to add value,
mhm,
really deep value to the people
mhm,
that they know they can serve really well.
mhm,
And I think trying to get through the noise and
mhm,
finding who is
mhm.
that person, because there are
Yes,
so many experts out there now in various niches, various
yes,
focus areas.
yes,
We talked before we started recording about there are some who really focus on serving newly single
yes,
individuals.
yes.
There are some who focus on, I mean, there's a huge variety of all of these different things. So
Mhm,
knowing what you need is a good place to start
mhm,
in terms of
mhm. And
what would
what
I
your
want this
goals are,
relationship.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But also having an advisor who says, "Oh, you're uncertain about your goals. That's okay. Let's explore it together. And
Mhm,
here's how we can do that." You don't have
mhm,
to have it all figured out before you find
mhm,
this person.
mhm,
You do want to have a sense that the person you're going to hire is going to be curious about you and what you want are wanting to accomplish
mhm.
and be a good thought partner in helping you get
Yeah,
there.
yeah. That's really great. And I will look forward to seeing that that questionnaire. My next question is, we have an estate planning attorney.
Mhm.
And I often encourage people who are in the process of caregiving to contact an elder law attorney. So let's talk about the differences between the services of an estate planning attorney and an elder law attorney
Sure.
and when it's appropriate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so what you just shared reminded me of this story. I had a client who she and her husband are in their 70s,
Hmm.
and she said, you know, we haven't talked to our old estate planning attorney for years. I don't think he's even in business anymore. Do you have a recommendation for somebody?
Hmm.
And so I said, yeah, here's a couple of names.
Hmm.
And she went to one of the names and she came back. I said, how did it go? How was your meeting? She said, honestly, I just felt like they were planning for someone 20 years younger than me.
Yes.
And I said, okay, very good feedback for me to
Yeah.
understand in terms of
Yeah.
who I send where. And I said, let's go together
Yes.
to this person who not only was an estate planning attorney, but had elder law experience, and their office was focused on elder law care.
Yeah.
And so, and she went there, totally different experience,
Yes.
actually felt like her questions are being answered because, to your point, the age and stage of your life is very different.
Yes, and it makes a big difference in how you plan things and, planning to preserve wealth if
Mhm.
one person ends up in long-term care.
Yep.
How do you protect the well spouse? There are so many things that are different from, we realized it was probably 10 years ago that our estate plan was written when some of our kids were still pretty young.
Yeah.
And the provisions that were in there do not make sense anymore,
Mhm.
because it just didn't make sense. And so what we had talked about in another session is, do you protect the money inside of a trust and they can only have the money under these certain conditions? Or do you say, well, just let them have let them figure out how to spend it. We don't want to control beyond the grave. So I think there are so many factors, and I like this idea of working with um, a group where you have an estate planning attorney and you have elder law attorneys who are also a part of the group,
Mhm.
because that changes the a person's age and stage in life changes the plan.
It does. And
Yeah,
knowing the right questions to ask and the
yeah,
right resources that even exist, I think
yes,
that's something that
yeah,
that just like not everyone who is a financial planner is going to be the best fit, right?
yeah,
That's a really broad description. So is attorney. And
yes.
so getting more specific on what it is that you need is so valuable. And I've seen some real light bulb moments with clients when we're sitting down with an elder care attorney of, oh, I didn't I didn't think about it that way, or oh, that's a
Mm-hmm.
question that hadn't even crossed my mind yet. And
Mm-hmm.
it's no slight to the other estate planning attorneys. It's just
No,
not their area of expertise. And so
yeah,
I agree with you absolutely.
yeah, that's a good point. Let's talk about um, the part of the team. We added some people to our team
We did.
through this series, and one was the mortuary.
Hmm.
So that you have that pre-planned and you know who to call when someone passes and you know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
and having that in place. We talked about a trustee or a fiduciary.
Hmm.
Um, Several years ago, Alex and I rewrote our disability guidelines.
Hmm.
I think you've seen those. It's quite extensive. I
Hmm.
mean, down to I don't want a TV blaring, in
Yeah.
my room 24 hours a day. The type of music or the radio stations that I would like to listen to, how I like to sleep. I mean, everything. And I want somebody to keep up my hair and my nails and so I think those things, if you think about who you are now, a geriatric psychologist said, who you are at 40 is who you're going to be at 70, just more so. And, so I know who I am now. I know what I like, what I don't like. And it's like, okay, if we have long-term care insurance, and by golly, I'm not going to be in a dark room or a locked unit where I can't get outside. I know that I would be a wanderer. I'm going to need to walk. I'm going to need something to look out outside of my window. So I put those into my guidelines.
Yeah, and having that documented, I think, can go a really long way.
Yes.
There are a lot of people that I have walked alongside them through their aging
Hmm.
journey and thought that they did everything right,
Hmm.
but some of those details
Hmm.
get missed. And so,
Hmm.
one example I'm thinking of is visiting one of my elderly clients as she was in her last few weeks of
Hmm.
life.
Wow.
And I had known what her wishes were and I had known what she was hoping for. And when I visited her for the last time in the skilled nursing area,
Hmm.
she was in a shared room with a sheet pulled,
Hmm.
not her ideal. And blaring on the other screen was Scarface in Spanish.
Oh,
Just so loud. And and to see her there, it was just
oh,
such a
oh.
yeah. And so the point being, your really clear guidelines are not only going to be a gift to you,
Hmm.
but also to your caregivers,
Yeah,
to the extent that they can take action
yeah,
to make it as comfortable as
yeah,
possible.
yeah, yeah,
That's a really important
yeah,
piece.
yeah. I think it is.
Hmm.
What else do we need to talk about in this section about building our team?
I think I think trusting our gut is very important, especially
Hmm.
if we were the person who was not the household CFO. We talked about this in one of our
Right,
early
right,
videos.
right.
If you were not the household CFO, or if investments is now a new thing that's on your plate
Hmm.
as the surviving member of the household, then you might not have as much muscle flexing experience in
Mm,
trusting your
mhm,
gut from
mhm,
financial things.
mhm,
But you don't have to know all the things right away, but you have met people. You have been in experiences
mhm,
where you are working with professionals before
mhm.
and you had a gut feeling about that person.
Right.
And so don't ignore that just because that person is in a suit or looks like a banker or whatever kind
Yeah.
of
Yep.
assumptions we make. Don't ignore your gut for what level of care that they might give. And don't be afraid to ask the questions of what happens if I call you and ask to liquidate all my accounts? What are you going to do? And tell you I want to go buy a yacht? You're like, how would you react to that, right? Like, what are some of the provisions they are going to be bringing to the
Yes.
relationship to keep you safe? I think that's an important piece as
I
we
like that.
age. For
Yeah, that's really good. And that's a great place to end. And I'm going to think about that yacht.
sure. Yeah.
Again, thank you. I'm Elaine Sanchez, founder of Caregiver Help, and my guest is Brenna Baucum, founder of Collective Wealth Planning, certified financial planner professional. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Brenna. And there's more to come. So stay tuned.